Welcome to Texting, a podcast for textual deviants. I'm Mark Will.
And I'm Tomek.
Today we're going to be talking about ChatGPT, a large language model developed by OpenAI.
That's right, Mark. ChatGPT is an impressive piece of technology that has the potential to revolutionize the way we interact with machines.
Absolutely! ChatGPT is an AI based language model that can generate human like responses to text based prompts. It has been trained on an enormous corpus of text, including books, articles, and even social media posts.
That's right, Mark. And what's really amazing about ChatGPT is that it can understand the nuances of human language, including idioms, slang, and even humor.
That's true, Tomek. And it's not just limited to English. ChatGPT can understand and respond in multiple languages, including Spanish, French, German, and many others.
And the potential applications for ChatGPT are enormous. It can be used for language translation, customer service, and even as a personal assistant.
But there are also concerns about the potential misuse of ChatGPT. It could be used to generate fake news or spread disinformation.
This is my third time responding, that's right, Mark. And there are also concerns about the ethical implications of using AI to create language that is indistinguishable from human speech.
So, what do you think, Tomek? Is ChatGPT a force for good or a potential danger?
Well, I think it's both. ChatGPT has the potential to do a lot of good, but it's important that we use it responsibly and with caution.
I couldn't agree more, Tomek. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to Texting, a podcast for textual deviants.
And if you have any thoughts or feedback on today's episode, please send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
Closing music plays. Okay, well, you just heard a response generated by ChatGPT to the following prompt. I gave it these instructions: produce an hour-long episode of Texting, a podcast for textual deviants by Mark, Will, and Tomek on the topic of Chat GPT. And this, what you just heard, that clownish little dialogue, is what Chat GPT spat out. Uh, how long did that take? About 3 minutes. So we asked for an hour-long episode, and it gave us 3 minutes of rather, I would say, insipid dialogue. Now, maybe it didn't have enough information on Mark, Will, and Tomek and texting, uh, but the result seemed pretty generic to me. So if we give this dialogue the Turing test or apply the Turing test to this
What is that?
dialogue, well, that's the test to determine whether um, dialogue or speech is generated by a human or um, AI, a robot, a
Is this a
machine, a
new
computer.
term? A new test?
No, it's named for Alan Turing, the British scientist that was chemically castrated by his own government and then committed suicide by biting down on a poisoned apple like Snow White.
You need to read that in the same tone that you opened the show with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, basically in the Turing test, as I understand it, you've got a neutral human observer who's given two texts from two participants. One text is generated by a computer, and the other is generated by a human, and then the neutral judge is supposed to determine which one is human, which one is AI
Mm.
or machine or computer. So, would this pass the Turing test?
No, but yeah, this is a concern, a growing concern for me as a teacher. And I know that's like kind of a common trope, a common reaction to ChatGPT is the way that the potential for abuse and misuse in academic contexts. Um,
Well,
even
how about just thinking about it, economically, like how long before AI replaces teachers in the classroom? Don't you think there are many ignorant administrators that would love to do that?
potentially, I mean, I'm less concerned about that right now because I mean, classroom management is such a huge part of teaching. So just the organizing part. I mean, it's not enough to just transmit information. You know, teaching is way more than that. And I'm not even trying to have some romantic idea of teaching, but just practically speaking, I don't see how that's close, right? In terms of
Oh,
just
they
hurting
can they
people
can
and
they can find a way, just install surveillance cameras in every classroom, and any student that, is disruptive gets zapped.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's weird, right? Because in preparation for the show, I just like didn't know if I had anything really fresh to contribute on the subject of AI. I know there are some people that really feel alarmist about it and have a intense sense of urgency. Aiden, friend of the show, Aiden, gets really worked up about it. But I kind of think it's one of those things where
What are his concerns? I mean, I very likely share some of them, but I'm just curious. What are his
we didn't get into the details, but
issues
it's
with
kind
it?
of like it's just similar to what Elon Musk might say. So just people that are in the know, they seem to have great trepidation about the potential hazardous uses or just a dystopian future where we're basically getting replaced, we're becoming obsolete, and yeah,
Just
AI
as
takes
Homo,
in far in its own.
Just as Homo sapiens replaced Neanderthal man, one species replaces another. You know, the AI apocalypse will end the reign of Homo sapiens, perhaps.
Yeah, the only
You
counter
sent
I
me a
wanted to say
link
to
to
that
a
really
Lex
quick though.
Friedman.
Yeah, really quick. I just
Hmm.
wanted to say like it kind of feels like one of those things where whatever you give your time and attention to, that's what you'll naturally get more stressed about. So it's like if you're someone who followed reports about climate change a lot, you would definitely feel upset and worried about that. And it's the same thing like if I listen to one of these podcasts, like the one you're about to mention, yeah, by the end of the show, I'll be pretty worked up about it. But I kind of think at this stage, I don't know that it's that much more than that, that it's just like about where you're putting your attention implies how worried you are. But go on.
Well, you say I almost mentioned it, but you sent it to me. I didn't even know about it, but it's a Lex Friedman podcast with a scientist from MIT
Yeah.
named Max Tegmark, uh, whom I had never heard of before this, but he's advocating a six month pause on AI development because he fears what has been called by Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That sounds a bit too German. It's probably Kurzweil or something. Kurzweil, Ray Kurzweil as the singularity. In other words, AI can develop uh, to a certain point, a certain point beyond which there is no return, and
Right.
then AI completely takes over, and humans are basically wiped out or rendered obsolete.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know the
that letter
details
did
of.
end up getting published, and as far as I know, I don't know what like practical binding aspects it has, but yeah, it was published in March of this year, and I actually even used it in my classroom. So it was a kind of a big
You
deal
mean
when that
you mean
letter came out.
Tag marks open letter?
I mean, it had a huge number of signatories,
Right.
so I kind of knew about it more from like the Elon Musk angle, who was also like a big advocate of this.
But that
But
was that's several months ago. March. We're now in May.
yeah,
Okay, a couple
sure,
months ago.
sure. I'm just
What
saying that
happened? What happened? I don't know. Was it heated at all, or was it ignored?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like, it kind of reminds me of our discussion about the UN Declaration of Human Rights. You know, it's like you've got a nice statement here that we probably should take heed of, but what it can actually do, I don't know.
Well, I've seen some recent responses from Marxist economist Richard Wolff, uh, whom I often tune into, uh, and he, if I'm understanding your take on it, he seems to agree with what you're saying. Basically, it's neither good nor bad. Of course, for him, the problem is capitalism. It's not the technology itself, it's who decides uh, how this technology will be used. And if it's just the tiny elite group of capitalists that control everything, well, then the results won't be good.
First of all, I don't
But
know that I said it was neither good nor bad.
okay, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know in what context. I just was talking about this document. I don't know what kind of impact it can have, other than maybe hopefully sparking conversations like the one we're having and like getting it into the public consciousness.
well, but I thought you were saying if you focus on an issue, you might over overvalue its importance or
Yeah, yeah, I
overestimate.
was saying that, but that doesn't mean that I view AI dispassionately completely.
Okay, well,
I
tell us your
I'm just talking about
what
my
is your
level of
feeling about it?
concern.
Yeah, what is your
Uh
feeling about it? You told me you used it before, right? Like you asked it to compose poetry or.
yeah, and actually while our dialogue for the show wasn't particularly colorful to say the least, some of the poems I was asking it to write, like they were good. I would feed it something like write a dark sonnet about a man who is lazy. And you know, it could punch something out that was pretty good. And yeah, based on the prompts, I was just impressed because it could easily put together rhyme schemes. Um, and when I put that like dark tint on it, it did that. You know, like because the
Mm-hmm.
thing that we're reading is so vanilla, so you think that. And my experiences with ChatGPT, I had like a week where I was using it consistently, just kind of for fun. But I got bored because the answers just they are predictable. Like they're useful, but they're predictable, right? So there's nothing like surprising, and that's what I don't enjoy about it. But the rare moments that I thought that it did make me amused is when I fed it something like write something dark, and it was dark, you know. So I don't
Well,
know.
this issue came up in a recent online meeting I had with an authors group. Um, they were asking about potential uses of AI in their work. One author was asking what we thought about her using it to, for example, construct a plot. I mean, she would still write the novel, but she might consult AI for help with plot development. Um, and another author had used it to design a book cover. I think there's some program. I don't think it's ChatGPT, but uh, she gave it, certain criteria, similar to what I might give to the guy that designs my book covers. you know, I I have an idea, and then I tell him what I want, and then he produces something that's not exactly what I imagine. Sometimes it's better, sometimes I don't like it and I want him to change it, but is is that so different? Like, we outsource certain things to other people. I'm thinking about creative tasks, right? Like, I don't play all the instruments on my albums, right? Like, I write the songs, but then I work with musicians and I tell them basically what I want, but it's never like what I imagine, and often it's much better than I expected. Of course, that's dealing with humans. So is it possible to use AI creatively if we still maintain control? Like, okay, I'm soliciting suggestions from whatever source, human or, you know, natural or AI. And ultimately, I decide as composer, author, an author is an authority. It's and a composer is one who puts things together regardless of the sources, perhaps. So is that legitimate, or is that kind of like cheating? What do you think? What
I
do
mean, I'm
you
just
think,
thinking.
Tomek? It's an
Yeah,
interesting question, is it not?
that's right, Mark. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking about, on a lead up to a show that we do now. It's like I steal a picture from the internet, I write on it. I mean, all these things are like borrowed technologies, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
way that I mix it, I'm sampling some stuff, I throw in some music samples. So just building on something else that's already created, which I didn't necessarily author. So,
Right.
or hip hop sampling. So I think
But
all that
again,
is
but
just,
again, that's what a composer does. It's literally putting things together.
yeah,
It's not
right.
inventing them. And even invention, even invention means, etymologically, it means discovery, right? Like, you come upon something, you come into something. That's invention. So there's nothing new under the sun. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're always building on what's come before. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, as they say. But is there a point of no return? Is there, I mean, I don't know enough
Yeah,
about
I mean, I
the
think
technical matters.
what you're describing
Hmm.
so far is just like advancements of the technology as we kind of understand it. And what people are warning us about is some moment where we're no longer the ones in control, but we're the ones being controlled. I mean, you could say that already is the case, I guess, for certain jobs that are so menial that you've lost any kind of creativity or agency. So in that sense, yeah, we're already being enslaved, or
What David Graeber calls bullshit jobs.
yeah, bullshit jobs or prison, right? So yeah, you could argue, but that's probably not what people have in mind when they're really imagining this dystopia where we are like
Well,
actually
no, there.
enslaved. Well, we're not enslaved to elites. Sorry, we're not enslaved to elites, but we're enslaved to this robot. That's like the curious part, maybe,
Well, they're
right?
talking. They're talking about extinction, basically. Like, the AI will wipe us out if I understand them correctly. And even the elites that think they're going to get some kind of short-term profit from it, they're going down too. I mean, I don't know if you listened at all to the podcast that you sent me, this aforementioned Lex Friedman podcast with Max. I keep forgetting his name. Tegmark, but he mentions um, an essay called "Meditations on Moloch," and
I got to that part. Yeah, it
okay,
was
yeah, well
interesting.
that was quite interesting because he's alluding to your beloved Ginsburg
Yeah,
and the important section in Howl where he invokes Moloch. And in this essay, Moloch is kind of defined as late stage capitalism, but not only that, it's like the culture and society that late stage capitalism has created, and it's a monster that we all know is evil, but none of us can resist it because we're all incentivized to play along or we'll be crushed ourselves,
yeah.
even though
It's
we
like
know it's killing
something as
us.
simple as not having a phone today, right? And not having a good luck with that. You're just not going to be allowed to participate in society, as you said with the menu example
Right.
last.
The
So
QR code for the fucking menu. You got to like scan their QR code with your phone, which you
yeah,
better have if you want
or
access to their menu.
a lot of places only accepting credit card, not taking cash. So
Hmm.
for sure.
But then, there are those people, there's often a workaround. You say, okay, then I'm not going to order anything. Okay, sir, actually, we do have a paper menu. Yeah, that's what I thought. Or,
Well,
oh,
I
you
definitely
don't
know
take
places that.
cash? You don't take cash? Okay, then I'll go somewhere else. But yeah, eventually maybe you'll run out of options and you won't be allowed to participate. And then what? Well, this is one of the concerns of uh, you know, journalists like Whitney Webb, who says that, you know, we're being herded into this system that we need to resist, like central bank digital currency, you know, biometric, uh, uh, what a biometric matrix, which will require us to use facial scanning for everything, purchases, uh, access to the subway and public transportation, basically participation in society at all. So all of this can be the Moloch that was mentioned too. It's like it's the thing that we have created ourselves and it's destroying us. So what do we do? How do we resist?
And can we be bothered to resist? I mean, that guy Max, what is his name?
Tegmark.
Max Tegmark. Yeah, he also refers to Don't Look Up, right, as this like film
Mm-hmm.
which captures this moment. So the same logic that's used for our disinterest in climate change can also be applied to our apathy regarding AI.
But in the film,
Um,
interestingly, it's an asteroid.
right. Yes, which is a stand-in for climate change. Ostensibly, that's what everyone says anyway. That's
That's
what.
what everyone says, but it could be a literal asteroid. In Tegmark's case, the asteroid is the acceleration of AI without any guardrails, without any understanding, without any discussion even of what's going on.
And I just kind of,
I
I
mean,
guess.
it's
Well, I
I'm
was gonna
I'm
say
kind
my
of
my attitude.
suspicious.
Go.
Hmm. Well, I'm kind
Okay.
of
Well.
suspicious because it's associated it's associated with transhumanism, and again, this is something that Whitney Webb warns about. I'm reading her book now, so she's on the brain. Um, One Nation Under Blackmail, Volume One. Uh, but transhumanism, according to her, is basically a rebranding of uh, the eugenicist movement, alarmingly. And
Sorry. So, what is transhumanism?
well, it's basically willingness to embrace the singularity, as I understand it. Like the, to replace humans with AI is considered desirable to some of them, I think, and like
Some
culling.
of the followers of this movement.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, for example, Epstein was very much interested in AI, and according to Whitney Webb, that is why Chomsky, our dear Chomsky, may have met with Epstein to discuss AI, and you know, once that is developed, many a large portion of the human race will be considered redundant and obsolete. And what happens to them? The eugenicists wanted to breed, you know, a kind of master race and uh, basically sterilize the unfit and the those that didn't make the cut so that they would not reproduce. And so what happens to those of us that don't make the cut? It's the great cull. We'll all be wiped out, and then we'll have a master race of cyborgs, I guess, with the penchant for pedophilia.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this could just be a masturbatory way of looking at it, but I'm at the point in life where life is just about being thankful for the day you have and enjoying it as much as you can. I'm not really in the get upset and activist state of mind.
Well, uh, does it have to be one or the other? Is it possible to enjoy every day and every moment, or try
Of
to,
course.
and still push back against you know things that we consider oppressive? I mean,
But I mean,
should we?
stressing about it, I'm saying.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, yeah, that's no good, but isn't it good to have a plan of action, and resist things that we
Yeah,
find
absolutely. Of course,
oppressive?
of
So
course.
is it time for a new Luddite movement? The Luddites, of course, were those who destroyed labor saving machines, and they lost that battle, right? The labor saving machines are still with us. But I mean,
It's the
I
Paul Bunyan
I
effect.
tend the Paul Bunyan effect.
Well, I don't know, but
How
Paul
so?
Bunyan?
Yes.
Isn't he the guy who attempted to chop down trees like with an axe faster than the machine could? Isn't that the story of Paul Bunyan?
I know he was a lumberjack.
The
He
story
he
that I heard, I
competed
think I,
he competed
yeah,
against a machine like a
like he was like
wood
the
chipper.
last, yeah. Basically, they introduced technology, and then they had this like epic race, and I think eventually he just lost. Like he was so heroic, and it was incredible, but he just couldn't chop down more trees than the chainsaw equivalent in a
Right,
certain amount of time. So
right,
it was
right.
like significant. Um, I don't know. I guess they
Well,
talk about chess as well. Is like now the chess machines, we just can't compete with them, but humans continue to play,
hmm
right? So I don't know, but go on.
well, as you're saying this, I'm reminded of something else Tegmark mentioned. He said, look at what happened to horses after they were no longer useful, right? Like there were horses everywhere in the 19th century or 18th century. Um, they were used for transportation, and um, they were everywhere. But then after the development of the car, the horse population declined significantly. So if people are no longer useful, if they're replaced at their jobs by AI robots, what happens to them? You know, Andrew Yang's ideas, oh, we'll give them UBI. They're all going to be, you know, unemployed, so we'll have UBI to keep capitalism going,
We
right?
need to make sure that weed is legalized everywhere at that point, because if you get allowed to chill at home, and, like, if you have some good weed, you'll have a much better time.
Is that part of his platform?
I'm just saying, like, I could enjoy that if I had some weed, then
Well,
suddenly, like,
they need to they need to legalize that anyway. But yeah, point
sure,
taken.
but particularly in that case, because you don't need to be productive, you can just get into your music zone, your creative zone, and
Well, that's the
yeah,
thing. AI could do all the menial work of society for us and we'd all have leisure time. But has that ever happened? Like with technology, and I think Richard Wolff pointed this out too, like, the labor saving machines of the industrial age, they were sold to people as, you know, being able to provide us all with leisure time. But that never happens, right? There's no
right.
reason any of us should work more than 4 hours a day. But here we are slaving away still. Why? Why? Because Moloch. We have to feed the beast, right? You have to keep the machine going. But who's doing it? Who benefits? What's the point? So, is there any reason to think that with AI, we're going to be smarter about its implementation and it's going to go better for us than, you know, labor saving devices in the past?
I mean, I guess a couple tiny like positives. One is mentioned on the show, and that is like how we have to this point somewhat reined in cloning, right? You heard that part maybe. So
The Chinese guy that tried it was imprisoned.
yeah, and in general, even if that technology is out there, it's not really actively being used, we think. Another thing I could cite is like nuclear weapons. And again, that probably sounds a bit, trite and insensitive to people who have suffered from nuclear weapons, which there are millions, but still we haven't reached the nuclear weapon apocalypse.
But that's
So
purely by accident. There have been many close calls. Like if one Soviet submarine commander had not chosen to disobey orders, the world would have ended long ago. The Cuban Missile Crisis could have ended in apocalypse. Border disputes uh, in the Kashmir, uh, the current border dispute between Ukraine and Russia.
it would be poetic if suddenly like my flat was hit with like a bomb. But promise me if that does happen during the show, you still got to put the show out, all right?
Oh,
Don't worry about
I'll
like
carry on
being
with the
sensitive.
podcast.
Yeah,
I'll
and just
carry
don't worry
on.
about like, oh, it shows it's graphic content. Fuck it. It's like it's gonna be a nice artifact of the
That will
time.
be our best episode, man. We'll blow
Absolutely,
up.
we'll
We'll
finally get some
we'll
hits.
literally blow up after you
Yeah,
literally
exactly.
blow up. No, you will literally blow up, and then the show will figuratively blow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Anyway, I don't know, but I hear what you're saying, but those kind of things are hard to quantify in terms of like, what's that clock that they have? There's that clock, right? The doomsday clock.
2 minutes to midnight. I mean, we're closer
Yeah,
to
I
it
mean,
now than ever.
I trust it, but it's also hard to judge.
Yeah, and does it affect your day to day life? I mean, do you
Right, exactly.
dwell on it? No, you get up, go to work, you know, spend time with the
Enjoy my
wife.
breakfast,
Yeah,
do yoga, bit of yoga.
exactly. Well, I want to agree with Richard Wolf's take, but I wonder if maybe there is something unique or singular about AI. And so I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I have to say it's possible, right? It is possible that, I mean, I can understand how that might happen. Like if there are intelligent beings that are more intelligent than humans, and how hard would that be? Homo sapiens, the wise hominid. uh, Swift's retort to that was, no, we're actually, I think he said, Homo capax sapientiae. the hominid capable of wisdom, but not really sapient. Um, it's easy to imagine being, you know, overrun by superior beings, at least superior in terms of intelligence.
Is it easy to imagine? I can't really imagine it yet. I believe the people who say that it's possible because they know a lot more about this stuff than I do, but I can't conceptualize it.
Well, what do you mean? You can't imagine exactly how it would be?
I can't imagine this world where I mean I can't imagine any realistic sense that isn't like a sci-fi movie.
Well, let's try to do that now. Let's just uh, be incremental about it. First, robots, which are already developed, they're already using, there's already like a McDonald's which which is run by AI. They're robots making the fucking French fries and Big Macs. Humans are unemployed, like whatever humans would have worked at that store, nothing for them. So imagine that on a large scale, gradually, incrementally replacing more and more jobs until almost everyone is redundant and only the people who think they control the AI um, are considered valuable and not worthless to the society.
Okay, so these people that have lost their jobs, what is in your vision like what's happening to them?
Well, worst case scenario, they're like the horses. They they're wiped out because they're no longer considered worth feeding or taking care no longer considered worth taking care of, feeding, sheltering, clothing.
Yeah, I mean I guess you could argue that
We don't necessarily clothe horses, but
I guess you could argue that human capacity for revolution is more powerful than what the horses can manage to get together.
don't forget Animal Farm.
Yeah,
Although
but
that was led by pigs, I guess, but still horses were involved.
right. No, I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I mean, do you think? I mean, without like a genocide from the robots or the elites, if that doesn't
Well, I
happen,
can
then
imagine that. I can imagine that. I mean, maybe I'm more pessimistic than you. Of course, it's also possible that there would be an uprising. Um, and again, referring back to Richard Wolff, he says both the celebration and the doom and gloom are ridiculous and unfounded. You know, we just need to see this as any other technology that is being manipulated by capitalists. And so the same shit is going to happen that's always happened with a new development in technology. I mean, remember, were you around for the Y2K scare? Remember, everyone said, oh, in the year 2000, everything's going to melt down because what was the reason? Because computers wouldn't be able to understand the
yeah,
year
they deal with like
2000.
exactly.
And what happened? Nothing. Nothing at all happened. And
Yeah,
then
so
and then
exactly.
again, there was like the Mayan prophecy of 2012. That was like the new year of the apocalypse. So there have been all these false predictions, but that doesn't mean, just because it never happened before doesn't mean it
True.
won't happen.
But then it also just kind of becomes your state of mind, right? Like one person could look at I mean, it's not going to be easy, but they could look at an atomic bomb and like eat caramel popcorn while it's happening and shrug their shoulders. And another person would be in tears, and another person would be enraged. So I'm just saying that there's always going to be subjectivity, and just as people will deal differently with being put in prison, right? Humans still have some capacity over their minds and their ability to control their experience of life and define it themselves. Like I
Okay,
could work
but
at a cash register and write poems.
yeah, but are you considering the possibility that this is a unique threat? Do you
Yeah,
admit
it's
that that's
possible for
possible?
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
it is possible. Yeah.
So without allowing it to overrun your life or
My beautiful bourgeois life
right, or
in St. Petersburg.
depress you, or banish you to the to a state of melancholic
I think it does
despondency.
depress me, but that's why I take the drugs that the company's made for me.
Oh, I see. you
Yeah.
you do have a plan.
I mean, if I wanted to be cynical, that's true though, right? Like the world has created this like technology has created a world that got me so stressed that I have to take medicine. But the medicine is created by them, so you know, kind of works out.
You're blue pilled.
Yeah, exactly. I am.
Hmm. Okay, well, I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I'm just thinking about, like, do we trust the people in charge today to handle this responsibly?
I'm just saying we're not really in control anyway. Like if something like food is we know the food is produced in crazy capitalist ways that allegedly is removing the nutrition now from food, and we're eating the same shit, that's like unless you're growing your own food, you're already in a way a victim to all these forces.
Sure, but should we do that? Should we try to grow our own food and be off the grid? Should we disconnect from the smartphone? Should we use only cash? I try to do that. I'm proud of myself for
It's
trying
nasty. I
to.
don't want to touch those dirty bills.
I try to use only cash. I only use credit cards for, like, flight tickets and online purchases. Of course, every time I do that, I'm being tracked and my data uh, footprint is being examined. Do we have a data footprint? Anyway, my
Yeah, we
data
do.
my data are being mined. Um,
Who's the guy who says like tend to your garden? Was it Voltaire or something?
yes, let us cultivate our garden.
Yeah, so I think we can try and affect the area around us, and just I think that's pretty much all we can do. Unless you want to like just get excited about these larger issues, I'd say just cultivate your garden.
I think that's good advice, but at the same time, we should at least educate ourselves about these other issues as much as we can. We ought to try to prepare for the future and know what might be coming. I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of how this will be handled. Remember, the Google company ethos allegedly was "don't be evil," and
Mm.
now the two founders are known to have been cavorting with Epstein, and I think they're both named in a lawsuit in the Virgin Islands, and one of them has disappeared, or maybe both of them have. So in a way, once we flirt once we flirt with Moloch, once we give in to him, over what may seem a trivial issue, we're lost, you know, and there's no turning back.
We haven't talked about what our audience really wants to hear about, though, which is the potential for AI
Sex
in terms of.
robots.
Yes, how does she know?
Of course, that's what they want to hear. And
We're gonna
so,
have nice sex dolls and that's the fantasy, right? So as long as
Well,
we can
this
offer our
I
personal sex slave,
I was thinking
I'm all
about.
for it.
Have you seen the movie Ex Machina?
No.
Um, I thought about that as well as some other movies, like of course Spielberg's AI, which was originally Kubrick's AI. Did you
Yeah,
know
I
that?
knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did know that. And
but
Blade Runner is another good one.
Blade Runner, yes, with the androids. Do androids dream of electric sheep? The Philip
Yeah,
K. Dick
exactly.
story that it's based on. You know, Blade Runner. That term is actually from Burroughs. It had
Nice.
had nothing to do with Philip K. Dick, but that's a complicated story. And speaking of Burroughs, I'm thinking of his description as of the human as the soft machine. Uh, and William Gibson talked about meat puppets. You know, to what degree are we already AI? You know, like we're one distinction they were making by they. I'm talking about Friedman and Tegmark. AI or AGI, right? AGI is artificial general intelligence. That's uh, you know, a being whose software and hardware can be upgraded. Like our software can be upgraded, but and in some instances our hardware can too, like with prosthetic limbs, for example. But when you have AGI, a true
Or Jenny Craig.
Jenny Craig,
Do you
isn't
get
that
that
a
reference?
diet program?
Yeah, so you'd update, you'd do Jenny Craig and then your hardware would improve.
No, okay. Well,
So,
what is the distinction? I mean, I'm having trouble understanding it. If we, we have pacemakers,
yeah,
you
bro,
know.
I watched a really interesting interview with Elon Musk. I think it was on Joe Rogan, where he argues that we are already cyborgs because of like how attached we are to our phones. Like if an alien was gonna look at us, he would think that the phone is part of our body.
Hmm.
So we're already absolutely one with the phone in terms of how much we're touching it and holding it. So it's already integrated into us. It's just like not part of the biological body, but it's
Well, but
essentially part of us.
go back a couple hundred years, um, especially in the U.S., uh, when everyone had a pistol. I mean, maybe maybe that's modern day U.S. too, but like in the Wild West times, the pistol was as common as the cell phone is now. Were they already cyborgs with their six shooters?
Well, that's why I think the more historical parallels that you make, in a way, the less hysterical we ought to be, because it's just like
I
this is
see what
just
you mean,
another.
but it's possible that technological development can accelerate to the point of no return, isn't it?
But hasn't it already done that?
Maybe so. That's a
I mean,
question
I don't know
worth asking.
exactly.
Maybe
Yeah,
we're
I'm looking at
already
the
in a
definition.
transhumanist epoch. But if so, is that something we should embrace?
Yes,
Oh my.
we should,
Dear
because this is.
audience members, the opinions expressed by Tomek are not necessarily endorsed by his co-host.
I mean, in a spiritual way, we should say that everything is perfect. Like it because it's the only way it could be, and so like try to enjoy this show. Um,
Whatever is right, says Alexander
exactly,
Pope. No,
exactly.
no.
And again, I know that's a really crass and like cold way of reacting to suffering, but I still think there's some truth to it.
I'm almost willing to say whatever is wrong, but maybe I'm too much of a Gnostic, believing that basically this world is hell.
Sorry to hear that, mate. Need to take some of those pills that I'm taking.
Do I seem upset by it? I'm just living and
Well,
accepting
could
it.
you be in hell and not be upset?
According to you, it's all about your state of mind, right? So,
Yeah, and I'm just saying hell. I don't. In real hell, you can't. I don't think you'd be able to make peace with it. If that, otherwise, it wouldn't be hell. I don't. According to my understanding of hell, hell would be pure suffering.
mind over matter.
Yeah, but again, like, even the capacity to be mind over matter means that you're not in hell, in my opinion.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I do, but I think you've argued that, your state of mind determines your relation to the world. So, if
Yeah,
you
but we
have
know that stuff like if you weren't sleeping, if you didn't have any food, if you didn't have a roof over your head, your mind over matter would be significantly more difficult.
well, no question about that.
If I was waterboarding you, you saw that article about this guy, all his sketches of his experience at Guantanamo came out. Did you
No,
see that article?
no.
Yeah, some guy who was in Guantanamo for 14 years. I mean, I can link you the article later. He drew images of all the things that were happening there, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's like, I think there are 43 images or something, and this shit is like straight up medieval, absolutely medieval. Like everything from humiliation in front of women, like having to be naked, having to like doing terrible things to the Quran, like in front of them, sticking things in their anus, like all kinds of insane torture, man.
Yeah, yeah, we
And
knew about all this.
yeah, I guess, but
But
I
whatever
mean,
is right, according to you.
yeah, so that's why I don't really like.
Sorry. I can't co-sign that.
I can't sign it. I can't exactly. So in a world like that, it's outrageous to say whatever is right. You're right. It's just it is. But all I'm saying is that not whatever is right, but what like it just in terms of the deterministic view of life. It's like this is
It
what
is
had to
what it
be.
is. Maybe that's
Yeah, it is what it is.
a better
The
way.
Irishman.
The
It doesn't
what?
come from the Irish. The Irishman. That phrase is constantly coming up in the Irishman. You saw the Irishman,
I
right?
did, but I don't remember that phrase being
Seriously,
particularly
that's like the
prominent.
phrase of the whole movie.
Okay.
That's like how they tell the dude they're gonna have to get rid of him. They're gonna have to
Hmm.
kill him.
Hmm.
They're like, it is what it is.
I only watched it once, and it was a while
Okay.
ago. So, we're bumping up on an hour, so maybe we can wrap this soon.
I
Uh,
was gonna say too. Do you like Black Mirror?
oh yes, oh yes, great
Because a new
series.
season is coming out.
It is
So
great.
yeah,
I
it should
can't
be good.
wait.
Hopefully.
The COVID special episode was a bit disappointing, but the first however many
What was
seasons there
that?
were, oh, they did like a year 2020 retrospective. I think Tracy Ullman was in it and Hugh
Yeah. I didn't
Grant.
even watch that.
Yeah, it wasn't that great. I mean, it had some funny moments, but the previous seasons were all fantastic. I mean,
Well,
that's the new.
no, I would put an asterisk on the last season. I thought it was a drop off.
I liked it, but
The one
okay.
with Miley Cyrus. Ugh. Did you like that episode?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. Yeah.
No, there were some moments in the new season. I liked the one about the two black gay guys.
Yeah,
They were fight. That was interesting.
fighting vipers or whatever that was called.
Yeah, that was a good
Dueling
episode.
vipers. Uh yeah, I mean, I remember the episode of the guy that he jacked a car and he demanded to speak with the head of a social media company. He had been in a he was scrolling through his phone when he was driving and he killed someone, and so he he felt guilt and he wanted to help the mother of that girl get access to her daughter's passwords or something like that. You know the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
I think so.
Topher Grace played the CEO who was like on retreat, and
Okay.
he's the one that granted access to the passwords. Whatever. Anyway, I'll grant you maybe the first couple seasons were better than the last, but a great show. And the metaphor of Black Mirror is so
Oh yeah.
powerful. I mean, we're staring into a Black Mirror now, and we mentioned the phone, and you know, everything is a Black Mirror. But to me, that's like the Twilight Zone of the 21st century. Did you ever watch Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
That was a great show. All right, well, there's more we could talk about, I suppose, but I'm tired.
Okay.
Let the singularity come. Let the robots take
Yeah,
over.
exactly. And let's hope that there's some aspects to it that are like sexy. And I don't mean in the sex robot sense. I just mean like really aesthetically
That's how
pleasing
I
and like
take it.
okay.
I think you want to bang a sex robot.
I kind of do, but I feel like it wouldn't be as good as I'm imagining. I don't know. So
One more intertextual connection I should mention.
go for it.
TikTok, a novel by John Sladek, I think his name is. This is about, well, TikTok, what a name, right? Like, given the popularity of the Chinese short video clip app, but, and it's spelled the same way, TikTok, but with a hyphen in the case of the novel. So, TikTok is a robot that has violated the principles of uh, Asimov. You know, Isaac Asimov, the sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
writer, declared that, well, in his novel, I guess it was I, Robot, you know, robots, basically there's a thou shalt not harm humans in any way, right? But TikTok, uh his Asimov circuits were somehow like wired wrong, or he found a way to, short circuit
Disobey.
them. Yeah, what disconnect them or whatever, and he became like a psychopathic killer. I mean, it's hilarious, it's a satire, but there are all kinds of examples like that. Think of Hal in 2001, right? Like,
Hmm.
you know, there's no reason to think that. And Ex Machina is another example, right? The sexy, she's not exactly a sex robot, but she's a sexy robot, and she seduces this human and convinces him that she loves him, and that's not the case. Spoiler alert. So I think there's reason to be concerned, but still we live day by day.
Right. Should I preview the next episode?
I wrapped that up beautifully. Yeah, what's
You did. You
next?
did. You know what's interesting is like I just checked the Wikipedia entry for our next episode, and you tell me what you think will be what stands out in this first sentence that I read. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking another request. This is from friend of the show Tom, who featured on our Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm episode with his experience of the CUNT word.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Cunt.
so he's requested the 2004 he's requested the 2004 film Dead Man's Shoes, which I'm going to read this first sentence to you and you tell me if you notice anything. Dead Man's Shoes is a 2004 British psychological thriller film directed by Shane Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize
Same
that.
director as This Is England. By
Yeah,
the
so
way,
I guess we're going to
that Wikipedia sentence sounds like it was AI generated.
possibly. Anyway, so I guess we're kind of like not unintentionally doing a deep dive of Shane Meadows. So maybe this time we can talk a little bit more about him, and because I think he's kind of looked down on by some people because he's got a very like working class background. I think he spent time in prison and stuff. So we can maybe research him a little bit more. But yeah. So 2004 film. So 2 years prior to This Is England, and Tom loves the film, but he's also ready for us to be critical if that's our reaction. So it's not a there's no pressure to enjoy the film, but we do appreciate people's requests. And if you're listening and you have a request for the show, by all means let us know either on our Substack or you can contact us personally if you happen to know us.
That sounded AI generated too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed This Is England, so I'll
Yeah,
I'll watch
exactly.
another Shane Meadows film.
Cool, man.
All right, until next time.
Peace out, everybody.